Hello everybody, we have a special guest. You can introduce yourself.
My name is Sterling Campbell. I'm a drummer, and I go back close to 40 years with Dennis Davis.
Okay, this show will be about asking questions about people who knew Dennis really well. And first question will be, how did you meet my dad?
Yeah, I met your dad. Your dad was just moving in, and I noticed that he had drums. So I was about a year into playing. I was around 13, 14 years old. And, I just started asking questions. Hey, you play drums and all of that stuff. And then I saw him one day in the lobby of the building, and he was going to a show. And I asked him, hey, where you going? And he said I had a show with the artist he was working with at the time was David Bowie. And I asked him, where are you playing? He said Madison Square Garden. And he offered me a ticket to go see the show. And my career took off starting that night, because now I've been playing drums, and about 15 years later, I was playing with David Bowie.
Next question is, when did you meet Dad?
Oh, I think I kind of answered that, but it was around 77, 78. 1977, 78.
What was the first impression?
My first impression of your dad? He was a drummer, so I was just impressed. And on top of it, he was a professional drummer. And that was even more impressive. So, and he was very nice to me. So I always thought very kindly of your dad.
Was
too much.
He like a brother or a mentor or a friend?
All three. Your father was all three of those things to me. He taught me a lot about making music. He treated me like a brother. And I was so inspired by the way he played music, and it really helped me grow as a musician. Sometimes he didn't have to teach me, just being around him and listening to what he was doing had a great impact on me.
If he was still here, what would you tell him?
That I love him first, and thank you for helping me get my career going, and the many times he made me laugh, because your dad was very funny. And he really was his own person. There's no second version of that guy. He's amazing. Yeah, really, all those things, that I love him very much, and just thanking him.
What kind of a man was he?
Once again, he was a funny man. He was a super talented man. He was a very generous man, not for myself, but he really mentored a lot of other musicians, and really tried to open a door for them and taught them how to become better musicians. And he taught us how to pay it forward to other people. I'll never forget that. I'll be always willing to help out a younger artist, and he had that effect on me. Yeah, that's really it.
Can you give me any advice, something my dad would tell me?
Star Wars. Star Wars is better than Harry Potter?
I highly disagree with that.
He would tell you to be a good boy, of course. Stay in school. Be kind to people. Try to help people out. Your dad was always really good at that. Listen to your mom. And just overall be a good person. Those things are really important.
So now, what as a drummer specifically, how did he mentor you, and how did you learn from him?
Okay, Dennis was a huge part of David Bowie's career from 1975 to like 1980s. Obviously, David had a huge impact on the world of music. I mean, he really ushered in a lot of different things that was to come. So when I saw him in 78, it was like they were already in the 80s. And Dennis is a part of that legacy. And he just made, without even like, just by being who he is, and just like David would throw music at him and he would just have to figure out what to do with it. And he always managed to do that. And that's something where like he didn't say that, he just was. That's how he approached it. And I really picked up on that a lot, throughout my career. Just the idea of just kind of, you're presented with the canvas and like what color you're gonna put on this canvas, to fill it out. And Dennis did it in a way that was just, it was so kind of uncanny. Like it wasn't like he planned it, he just made it happen. And so it wasn't like he was telling me this, I just observed him, and throughout his career listened to the music, and I asked him questions. And he was like, hey, David had these chords and I just did that, and it was like, wow, that's great,
So you would actually be backstage and watching, or in the
Not
concert?
necessarily like that. My questions got answered later on, but my questions also got answered just by listening to it, because nothing was ever the same with David. And I can see, and I started figuring out like, oh wow, he brought that into that. He threw something that wasn't necessarily the right thing to throw into it, but he did it anyway because that's what he was feeling. I think that's what makes David's music unique. It's he has a kind of an idea, and he just keeps adding on to the idea just by using the his own. Just like, let's see if this works, or just like it's an instinctual thing. I like that. I like the way that sounds. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna follow that direction. And also with my tenure with David, it was kind of the same thing. He lets you do you, and then he just kind of figures it out, or I'll try to figure out what, if he has a rough idea of something, I'll try to figure out something. And I could definitely say I got that from Dennis.
When you were like rehearsing for a concert, or would you call Dennis and ask him about what he was doing, or would you just kind of listen?
No, I just reference it. I studied it like for years. Like once Dennis invited me to see David, 1978. The minute I walked out Madison Square Garden, it was like, okay. I was just told that anything goes and I can do anything with this stuff. It was a very impactful concert. It's like walking out from seeing Star Wars for the first time.
If you could describe to laymen what characterizes Dennis Davis's drumming style, so something that a non-drummer could kind of understand or get a rough idea.
That's a kind of tricky question, because Dennis came up at a time, it's all Dennis's character. I mean, it's his lifetime thing. He was born in at a certain period of time, and certain things were happening at a certain period of time, and it's his natural character, who he is. I remember Dennis telling me, like, I didn't know what David was talking about, I just kind of, David had like these very cerebral, very Eurocentric ideas that were completely foreign to Dennis, but what Dennis did like is that it was like, that's cool. It was like something that was inquisitive to him, to like react to it, as opposed to like, what's this crap? What's this? I don't get it. He was never like that. He was very open-minded. In terms of David's music, it's kind of like that. I mean, I don't think from everything I've ever done with David, it's always like, oh, cool, that's cool, do that. I like that. It was sometimes it'll have chords, but when it gets all colored in and everything, I think all those things play a role. And I think David was a really good casting director with that. He knew how to get the guys that can he can get something that's going to be just a little bit different out of it, you know.
Oh, great. Hikaru, I've got a question for you. So when you were growing up, what do you remember about your dad playing? Did he play a lot in the house?
So when Daddy was playing these drums, I used to go to see him at his clubs, and I got to meet a lot of his best friends, and it was really interesting, but it was late at night, so I was tired, and I needed to go to school next day, so I don't stay the whole thing. But when I'm there, I just feel like I can just feel like I'm actually up there, like, playing. All I could just say was that I liked his drumming.
His drumming was amazing. He influenced. Without a lot of people, you know, if David Bowie was influential, then Dennis was influential because he was a huge part of his sound. And he had, without people knowing it, because everybody was so concentrated on David, but Dennis had a huge impact on a lot of drummers and musicians. You know, and that stuff's going to live for a long time, you know. So Dennis is around, for sure.
Okay.
Really deep questions, I have to admit.
You didn't write them.
I actually did.
You did. They were amazing.
Good.
All right,
But wait a minute. There's one more question. The Star Wars Harry Potter.
Oh, Harry Potter.
Let's sit down.
Everybody, just saying, the Avada Kedavra could kill any Star Wars character.
Wait, you can't walk away. Now I have to have my say.
What?
First of all, he can't leave space.
Actually, if they
And
were on
if he-
Earth, yeah, that's...
No, but I gotta say what I gotta say now, because you said something.
Oh.
If he would have come to Tatooine, to another planet, none of those powers would work.
I don't get how.
You know?
Why?
They wouldn't, because like your friend said, he needs the natural resources.
And how does
He has
Tatooine
not
look?
planet hopped. He's only been on Earth. Luke has been to so many different planets.
Yeah, but has he ever been to
And-
death? Has he ever seen death?
He's been close to death. You know why he hasn't seen death? Because he defeated it.
Actually, he's seen it and he's lived through it. So,
No.